Today we're going to do a review on the Kaizo wash-free airbrush and the Dspiae wash-free airbrush. So I just wanted to show what's inside the box here. So with the Dspiae, we'll start off with that first. You get two holsters. These are holders for the Dspiae itself, and they have like a stand that you can buy, but you have to buy their stand only, unless you can find something with a similar beam or like rod that you could stick this into. I'll show an example of it here in just a second. But besides that, it comes with this as well, which is a marker adapter. And the marker adapter you can put on the top here like so, and basically what you do is you put a marker right inside, like kind of like so, and you can just align it up, and supposedly you can spray with the marker. I haven't tried the marker spray yet, but supposedly it does work. Maybe one of these days I will bust that out and see how that does. But I usually only use markers for touch-up stuff and not actual application of paint, unless it's touch-up stuff or if I'm painting a certain particular thing. But that's what's in this box here. I said I was going to show the stand, and there's the stand itself. So that's the stand. As you can see, it's got like so I have two different types of holders. This is the holder that comes with this stand, and then this is the Dspiae one right here. As you can see, you can kind of just pull this off, and it's just a bar, and it just, you have to buy this stand in order to use the Dspiae holders. But it's not bad. It works pretty well. It's one of those things where you do get two of them, but you got to buy the stand to use it, so it's almost kind of pointless to have unless you get the stand. But regardless of that, it does come with the kit comes with 3 bottles. And each of these bottles comes with a 0.5 needle. And you have options too with these. You could buy a set of 50 of the 0.5, or you could go ahead and get the set of 0.3 for the 50 as well. Let's get into the Kaizo now. The Kaizo, in the box itself, you get, oh, another thing I wanted to mention too was you have an option of buying 3 bottles in the pack, or you get I want to say 5 bottles. You have an option of the 2. But let's get into this. You only really have one option here, and you get 3 bottles inside of here with the Kaizo, and it comes with like 15 different needles, and all of those are different sizes from a 0.2, 0.3, and a 0.5. So you have a couple more options here because you had the 0.2. And the bottles are a little bit different. They have a different setup to it. So as you can see, this bottle has a different top compared to the top for the Dspiae. So the Dspiae's top is more for the siphon setup, and the Dspiae, or I mean the Dspiae is more set up for the siphon setup, and the Kaizo is more for a gravity fed setup. So as you can see, that's the gravity fed. And then when we talk about siphon, we are talking about up and down like this, and just having the tube, this tube siphon paint to where you want it to go. I just another thing I wanted to mention too with these is both of these bottles as well are compatible. So you could take either or of these when it comes down to the bottle, and the 2 bottles are compatible, and the 2 tops are compatible, and the needles as well. So everything's compatible with each other. So before they had some of these Kaizo bottles, I just bought a crap load of these, and I even use these because they will actually literally for the circumference. Some of the bottles are a little bit wider and you can't fit it on the Kaizo setup. And it's kind of, well, I don't know about the Dspiae. You could probably do a thicker bottle in the Dspiae because it's siphon setup. But with this one here, you have to have a bottle of a certain thickness. If it's not this circumference, if it's a little bit bigger, which I will see if I have another bottle for an example. So I have a bigger bottle here. This is the bigger bottle, Kaizo bottle. And as we can see, with the Kaizo bottle, move that out the way for a second. With the Kaizo bottle here, which is, this is an 80 milliliter, and this one here is a 40. So you can kind of see the difference in the thickness of it, right? But if I put this on with the Dspiae, with the Dspiae setup, it'll still screw on, right? Top will screw on because everything seems to be the same compatibility. I can go ahead and screw this on. So that's a plus for this, is that you have the ability to take a bigger bottle of stuff, put this top on, and still be able to use the siphon filter setup. But when it comes down to the gravity fed, you're not going to be able to do that because this bottle is too wide to fit. I tried it before. So this bottle, I'm going to take the bigger bottle now, right? And I'm going to put it on here, and I'm going to try it for the siphon setup. And as you can see, it's not going to work. It's not going to fit because it needs to be a certain type of, I want to say, width to fit to get this guy all the way in. If it's too wide, it's got to be a certain type of thickness. If it's too wide, it's just not going to fit in here. And then you have this problem where now your needle, as you can see, I don't know if you can see, but the needle is not getting to where it needs to be where it can spray out air. But with the Dspiae, you can do that. So you do have a little bit more options with the Dspiae when it comes down to bottle size. But like I was saying, if you are going to just have the original, just the Dspiae bottles that you buy from the kit, or for just the free wash the wash-free airbrush, then you'll be fine. But if you're going to go with like an 80 milliliter or bigger, you're probably going to have a problem with the Kaizo. But it's as long as the cap size is the same, which it seems to be, you can go ahead and use multiple different size bottles with the Dspiae. So that's another option as well, just so you guys can use in the future if you needed to, which is nice because now you can just pre-mix whatever you want in one of these bottles. If you needed it, you can just go ahead, unscrew, stick this cap top on, go ahead, get the spray. So that is a plus for that. Alright guys, so I'm going to be doing a spray test with some of this right here, which is Beyond Navy Blue. It's a flat paint and primer, and this is actually a spray paint that I thinned out and put in this spray bottle, which is the Dspiae spray bottle. And that's what I'm going to start with first, is the spray setup. I'm going to start with the Dspiae setup here, which I'm using right now with a Krios dust filter adapter. So I'm going to be using this first. I'll do a spray with this, and then after that, I'll do a spray with the Kaizo after this. But we'll kind of show basically what I'm going to do with the spray test is I'm going to do a couple of lines, some dots, and I'll show the difference between kind of the thickness and the control of what you have in the two type of guns. So let me mix up this paint, and then we will get into that. All right, kind of an example, sloppy example. So this was my second attempt. I decided to do a different type of paint so I can kind of give a better comparison of how both of them works. I don't know if you noticed, but I will put in there, well, you'll notice that I kind of had a hard time getting the red started with the Dspiae, but coming out of the Kaizo, it worked out pretty well. As you can see, I don't know, I think there's looking at a lot of this here, this is a little bit easier. Well, you can see there's a little bit more control in the output of the paint in this one here on the Kaizo compared to the Dspiae. The Dspiae looks a little bit more blotchy, but at the same time the control's not there. You can see I tried to do a square. There's a square. Square looks a little better here. The triangle, as you can see, looks way better on the Kaizo. And then I try to do the D, and then another triangle, and then another square. But everything with that paint really turned out kind of fadey with the Dspiae compared to it. Even though I mixed both of them up with the same mixture, it's the same bottle of paint, that's kind of what you see. Two, I had a hard time with the Dspiae getting it started at first. I had to kind of do a few things to get the needle to align right, and you'll see I kind of sat there for almost like a minute or so messing with it before it actually started to perform. I do have this other paint I put out here too, and that was that Beyond Blue. So this right here, both of these are spray paints, just to let you know. So I use straight up spray paint, and I thinned it with Mr. Leveler 400, and that's what it came out with. So when we look here, it's kind of a different story, Morning Glory. You can see the Kaizo with the Beyond Blue paint. It kind of turned out really soupy for some reason. I don't know why, but when it sprayed out, it did not spray circles. It sprayed splatter marks. Same thing with the K there, and kind of how, what I mean with both of these paints, I don't know, maybe I should have mixed it up a hair bit more, or I got to do something with this, but as you can see, the saturation on this isn't great on either side. I think they're both kind of muddy. So I'm not gonna, I don't know, my review on this is, I always, in my opinion, I've always had better success with the Kaizo compared to the Dspiae, because sometimes the Dspiae I'd have to sit there for a little bit, like you saw with the red, trying to get it aligned right, or making sure the needle is not clogged or dried up. So I usually end up with problems with that. I mean, I never really hardly have a hard time with the Kaizo, but as you can see, the Kaizo sprayed like crap with this blue stuff here. But usually with the Kaizo, it's direct. I've never really have a problem when it comes down to, as long as I have a mixture mixed up right, usually it'll shoot out no problem. And I think it's because of the fact that, like I was saying, you know, you have this upright siphon setup where, you know, you're putting the bottle in upright like this, you know, compared to the Kaizo, which is a gravity fed where the bottle's going down like this. And so with that being said, I feel like it is a little less problematic, because now you have, instead of expecting there's no tube in this one here, but instead of expecting, oh, good example, where's one? Okay. Instead of expecting something with the tube to suck up stuff, where you might end up with a problem having this clogged or having the tip itself get dry, you kind of have two problem areas. So sometimes you got to sit there and either make sure this tube is not clogged, or you got to make sure this needle is not dried up at the tip. And you want to make sure too you align everything right. So sometimes this can be a little bit more problematic when using, compared to the Kaizo setup, where I just, you know, basically have a gravity fed setup. I kind of stick this guy in here, it aligns up, and then we're good to go. I think either or is not a bad option. The only thing is you have to do a little bit more thinning and making sure your ratios are consistent when it comes down to the Dspiae over the Kaizo. I'm not going to say I haven't had problems with the Kaizo. There has been certain paints sometimes that will come out funky, just like how this was right here on this example. Another thing too I want to say about the Kaizo too is when you're using spray paints, if you ever use spray paints, I don't know if you're like me, but I'll give a good example. Like I have some of this stuff in here right now, this ultra matte stuff. I'm going to open it up right now and you're going to hear a hiss. You see what I'm saying? You hear that hiss? That hiss is a lot of the CO2 that's still in these paints. And I only am saying the CO2 in paints of spray paints. So if you are going to ever use a spray paint and put it in a bottle, you want to make sure you're burping it here and there, because what it's going to do is collect CO2 inside that bottle, and all it's going to do is cause pressure. And especially when you're mixing your paint again, all it's going to do is just have a pressure bubble. So even when you open up that bottle, either you're going to have some CO2 that comes out of it, or you're going to end up with paint coming out of the top of the bottle. And with the siphon setup, you tend to have it where if it's spray paint, it's going to just shoot out the back until at least you can get some of that gas out of there. And if you can get that gas out of there, you don't have a problem. But if you still have some gas in there, it's going to leak all over your Kaizo, because this is gravity fed. So whatever's coming out, it's going to come out at an angle and it's just going to shoot out from the back. So then you end up with problems of having more of a leakage situation than you do shooting stuff, which is kind of nice with the gravity fed setup, because it's straight up and down, to where sometimes you could use spray paint stuff and it's just going to bubble, but it's not going to like spill all over the place. But I haven't had it where I've had a lot of gas pressure in there and it still shot up over the top. It just started leaking. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. If you ever do decide to do like me and use spray paint, make sure you're burping the hell out of it. People ask me too, like, how do I get the spray paint out? And maybe one of these days I'll show a setup of how I do it. I do a combination of two things. Sometimes I will spray stuff in a container and spray a certain amount in a, I'll use a Dixie cup, like, I'll use a Dixie cup like this, and I'll spray a whole bunch of spray paint in a Dixie cup to a certain point, which I need, and then I'll thin that down. And then usually if a spray paint can gets to a point where I know there's not enough gas left to spray anything, that's an ideal time to siphon out of the can. And usually what I'll do is I'll just take a drill bit. Make sure you have a lot of face protection, because you don't want to get that on your face and eyes, because it will probably shoot directly out of wherever you're drilling at. But once you do that, which what I usually do is I have like a vine, or I have like this really bushy vine in my backyard. And what I'll do is I'll just take a drill bit, screw it right into here, and then kind of get it into that vine area, hit it, and it'll just usually shoot in between the vines, so it's just going into the bushes or whatnot. And then I'll take the rest of this can and I'll let it sit outside for a few hours and hopefully degas some of it, because it's a small hole, so it shouldn't dry out your paint. Two, it shouldn't dry out your paint anyway, because you're having gas coming out of it. So once you do that, then you can just take either, like what I do with some of these guys, I take a Dspiae bottle and then I'll just siphon all of that. I'll put all of that into here and thin it, and then use that later. But like I said, you can do that and it'll work. And even if you do decide to, even like me, I'll sit there and I'll let it burp out for like an hour or so, but you'll still have a shitload of gas in your paint, just to let you know. So if you're ever trying to use spray paint in one of these airbrush free setups, like this guy here with the bottle, with one of these kind of bottles, or here's a better example, because this is spray paint in a bottle. This looks kind of weird. It's a cosmic shifting color, so that's why it looks all yellow like it is. But this is not bad, I don't think, because I've burped this a few times. Like, I open this up, it's unburped. But just be aware of that, you know, if you ever do decide to use spray paint in one of those bottles to burp it, because it will be, you'll end up with a mess, or you'll end up with stuff all over the place if you don't get that gas out. Hopefully it's good advice for you guys, and this video does something for you. Like I said, I don't think this is the all-to for airbrushing. I just only use this for stuff that I don't want to clog my airbrush with, and stuff that I know that will clog my airbrush, or I don't want to spend a lot of time trying to get out, like really thicker paints. This is good for that. Only thing is, if you're trying to get control with stuff and you're trying to do things like shading or very controlled paint lines, as you can see, you're going to have a certain amount of control that you're going to get out of it. And with PSI, you could turn the PSI down, but the bad thing about it is you're just going to get less output in your paint, because this goes by pressure more than it does it goes by more pressure and output spraying out. It's like a spray paint can. You need some type of gas to push out the paint, and that's what that does. Where when you have like a 2 trigger setup, you at least have your air that's going, and you can always control your air and then how much output of how much paint you want to come out. Where this is just all in one. And so with that being said, don't expect this thing, you know, I mean, you could use it for a full paint job if you want to, but don't expect the control that you would get out of an airbrush out of it, because it's not going to do that for you. It's mainly designed to pretty much replace it. Basically what this is an airbrush, a spray paint can in an airbrush form. That's basically all I'm going to say it is. It's basically that. I mean, don't expect a lot of control from it, besides maybe going down on your PSI a little bit, but you're still going to want at least about maybe 25 to 30 PSI when shooting either one of these, or you're going to get output like this. I had to shoot the PSI a little higher to get it from unsplattering with this, with the Kaizo. But you can see with the Dspiae, it kind of worked, but it's very light. So always keep that in mind, and hopefully I gave you some information, and I'll stop talking, and I'll see you on the next one. All right.